the sunrise. You pray and you pray, but the sorrow remains. All your cries seem to fade in the darkness, and you wonder when God will take the suffering away. My friend, he weeps with you. He's never out of reach. He's right there when you're broken, and he'll never leave. So be joyful in hope, faithful in prayer. There's never a heartache that God cannot bear. He whispers his love and peace over you. He will be there to comfort and soothe every wound. Through your deepest pain, he'll reveal that even though life hurts, God heals. In his presence you'll find compassion. There's grace upon grace, and he wants to give more. He brings rest to the home of the desperate, and proves every time he's a God who restores. My friend, he weeps with you. He's never out of reach. He's right there when you're broken, and he'll never leave. So be joyful in hope, faithful in prayer. There's never a heartache that God cannot bear. He whispers his love and peace over you. He will be there to comfort and soothe every wound. Through your deepest pain, he'll reveal that even though life hurts, God heals. Healing begins as God starts to move. Feel his strength rising, rising in you. So be joyful in hope, faithful in prayer. There's never a heartache that God cannot bear. He whispers his love and peace over you. He will be there to comfort and soothe every wound. Through your deepest pain, he'll reveal that even though life hurts, God heals. Even though life hurts, God heals. My God heals.
The Kingdom Heirs. Life hurts. God heals.
There was a man in the Bible named Peter, a disciple of the Lord was he. While sitting in his boat in the middle of the storm, Jesus came a-walking on the sea. He said, Peter, get out of that boat and start a-walking. And Peter moved when he spoke. Things changed in a moment.
11th hour, Mountain Moving Faith.
I started on this journey many years ago at an old-fashioned altar where I called up on the Lord. In spite of my shortcomings, and though I have my faults, the Lord has always been there to guide me along. Well, it's a way that's led me through many dark valleys. It's a way that's led me up many broad hills. And when I reach my destination, I know that I can say through all the ups and downs, it's a mighty good way. I have seen the Lord deliver a soul that's filled with strife when he reaches down and he gives eternal life. I have seen the hand of death come knocking at friends' doors, but the angels came from glory to carry them safe. Oh, well, it's a way that's led me through many dark valleys. It's a way that's led me up many bright hills. And when I reach my destination, I know that I can say through all the ups and downs that it's a mighty good way. Well, it's a way that's led me through many dark valleys. It's a way that's led me up many bright hills. And when I reach my destination, I know that I can say through all the ups and downs that it's a mighty good way. But when I reach my destination, I know that I can say through all the ups and downs, it's a mighty good way.
The McCamey Legacy, Mighty Good Way.
I'd rather live for him more than anything I know, more than houses and land, or riches untold, than to gain this whole world and lose my The Perry Sisters. I'd rather live for him.
You're listening to Affirm Southern Gospel Radio.
Order for Jennifer C.
Is this my double shot, double cream, double froth, double pump, double whip, double sleeve?
Yeah. Can you handle that much caffeine?
Did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, really? That's great.
Seriously, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, you just said that.
Did you say I just said that?
Yeah, I'm cutting you off.
I can't have any more? Why not?
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
We're halfway through the year, and a lot of people are running on empty without fully realizing it. Grow Therapy helps you find care before burnout hits. Grow makes it easier to find a therapist who fits you.
I look more like my dad. Turn that down, Asher. Morning, everybody. If you're watching online and my head's shining, I'm sorry. Yeah, they might not. How's everybody doing today? Everybody watch fireworks? Any of them? We went to Epling yesterday. They were really good. Epling, the Epling Field ones, they were really good.
I didn't watch them, but I heard them sound like civil war going on out there.
Jacqueline tried to wake me up at, I don't know, it was probably July 5th when the Washington, D.C. ones finally started, and I looked at the TV for half a second and then fell back asleep.
Yeah, one in August was delayed due to the helicopter came in, so they delayed.
Oh, okay. Asher, Jacqueline woke Asher up to say, the fireworks are going on. He said, no. Probably what I sounded like, too.
I stayed up and watched them in D.C. They were awesome.
Were they? Did they break the record that they were talking about?
I think so. They lasted over 40 minutes.
Nice.
My neighbor, it's a friend of ours up on Mountain View Road. He invites us up there every year. He's retired from the Army. And he sits on his porch with his computer and puts all his fireworks in his yard.
Oh, that's cool.
It's equal or better than what the Armory and these other places have. But we pulled in there yesterday and he had it all fenced off and this big pile of this. And he went on probably 45 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
I mean, just
I've never been real impressed with the armories, but they were a lot better this year. It could have just been because it was America 250, but they were better this year.
I've been hearing on TV, last 3 or 4 days that this is going to be called the summer steam. They had a lot of real old steam locomotives and stuff back out on the rails. They had the 1941 big boy on the rail too. And each state they entered in, they changed the flag on the front of it to that state flag.
Uh-huh.
They even had some of the old ballroom ones out, and some of the had them old trains going. Look, they had a whole string of passenger cars behind, and they had a lot of times they'll have a steam engine in the front, and about halfway down they had a couple of diesels.
Okay, cool. Anybody got any prayer requests this morning? Mm-hmm.
Remember our family, my 2 boys, their salvation, and a good friend of mine, Mike Browning, he's actually the brother of Miss Gilfield and Danny Gilfield's wife, and he lost his battle with cancer. Remember the family.
Marv.
Remember my neighbor, Mr. Harshbarger, last night during all that, he had actually had a stroke. And I heard anything this morning how he is. He's like 80 years old. Remember him.
Asher, you got prayer requests? For Yellow Grammy? There's somebody that needs lots of prayer. Good.
I've got a couple people very close to me, and they asked if they would remember the prayer of Mary LaBelle.
John? Anybody else?
Still remember Buddy and Georgia Freeman and her sister Patricia, our nation, military missionaries, and our law enforcement, and I have two sisters and their families that need prayer.
Mason.
Logan and Paul Allen in prayers for salvation. Mom also.
She doing better?
Yes.
Let's remember our country. Let's continue to pray that God brings revival to our country. We really need it. A lot of the separation we got isn't going to be fixed unless we realize we need God to lead our lives. If you guys would, let's stand. Mason, you mind leading us in prayer this morning?
Most kind, gracious Heavenly Father, we come to thee this morning. Thank you for another day of blessing. Things we've said and done. Just continue to guide and direct us along the way. Lead Matt, Lord, as he listens to the teaching and hears the word, because he is good hands. Be with all these prayer requests, Lord, that's made known. Each and every one, the sicknesses and health issues, but most of all, the salvation issues. Lord, tonight we ask you just to continue to guide and direct us. Help us in everything that we do. We'll always be found in Jesus'
Alrighty, if you guys got your Bibles, we're finished now with Corinthians. Now we're going to jump back into the Old Testament. We'll be in the book of Isaiah, chapter 6. And I don't expect our lesson to last long, so I'm going to insert a few plugs here. I know Luke's kind of commercialed small groups. If you guys are interested in a small group, I would really encourage it. We had small groups in our church in Columbus, and we were in them for 5 or 6 years, both in them and leading them, and it was not only a great time, but we learned a lot, teaching and just the discussion we had. It was great. It led us to random rabbit holes, like did Rahab sin when she lied to the soldiers that the 2 spies weren't in her house? And that lasted 2 weeks, I think we brought that up. It was kind of interesting. I don't know, it just kind of brings people's perspective. People are more comfortable talking in smaller groups. I'd really encourage it. I always thought they were great. My other plug is if kids or grandkids, church camp next year. I absolutely loved going to church camp. I know Luke's already put the slides up for the dates for it. Absolutely loved it. It was a great time. That's it for my plugs. All right, so before we jump into our reading here, I had a couple of things. Just look at verse 1 of chapter 6, the word Lord, and tell me how it's spelled there. Is there a capital anywhere? Capital L? All right, now jump to verse 3, Lord of hosts. How is that spelled? All capitals. Alrighty, so all capital, Lord of hosts. I'm going to teach you a word I just taught myself. It's a Hebrew word, Yahweh Tezvaot. Let's hear it. Yahweh Tezvaot. We'll jump into that in a little bit. I just thought it's a pretty cool meaning. Yahweh Tezvaot. That is capital Lord, or all capital Lord of hosts. Capital, just L-O-R-D, all caps, is Adonai, and just the capital L is Adonai, and all capital L-O-R-D is Yahweh. So we'll get back into that here in just a little bit. So now just to give you an idea, since we're jumping into chapter 6, we skipped 5 chapters of Isaiah to give you an idea of what's going on. Isaiah prophesied during King Uzziah, King Jotham, King Ahaz, and Hezekiah. So he was the prophet there for a very long time to the nation of Judah. This was after Israel split into two nations, so he is a prophet in Judah. King Uzziah was a good king as far as following God. It says he did right in the sight of the Lord, but at the end of his life, he kind of got pretty prideful, and that really kind of messed his reign up. And then he kind of passes that on to his son. But it notes in the Bible during Uzziah and Jotham, they both did right in the sight of the Lord, but the people were getting rather corrupt. They were letting their sin get carried away with them. So at the beginning of this, like I said, he begins his I don't know, what do you call that? His time as a prophet, his prophecy time, I don't know, during the reign of Uzziah. And he starts calling out this woe to Israel, woe to the people. The first 5 chapters are kind of full of woe. He kind of gives them several parables. So let's just take a second here. And what do you guys think of when you think of a prophet? What do you think their role was?
Someone that prospers.
Somebody that prospers is a prophet? Somebody that can tell the future, essentially. Yeah, prophets. That's what a lot of people probably think of. Anybody else? All right, so my take on a prophet is, again, a lot of them deal with future events, but really they're the mouthpiece of God. It's God that's telling the future, not the prophet per se. God gives them what to say, and they're kind of the mouthpiece of God. Does anybody know how a person became a prophet?
By reading and studying the Word of God.
That might be part of it. Chosen, that's, yeah. So God chooses them. They show like a fruitful prophecy. They prophesy something and it comes to be. During the reign in Israel, whenever David gets set up, we had Nathan the prophet. After that, there's kind of some schools per se of prophets that get set up. We see that with Elijah and Elisha. If you guys remember, after Ahab and Jezebel, they go in and they kill a bunch of prophets. These prophets were set up in like several schools. But out of those schools, there became false prophets too. You get a bad teacher, somebody that's just corrupt. They corrupt their students more or less, and they go on and spew the same garbage. So that you called by God, which I think is more of how we see Elijah and Elisha. There's a schooling that some come out of, and there's just a few different ways that they became a prophet. But really, the thing is you prophesy something that God's given you, and it shows fruit in that, and now that person's a prophet. I just kind of looked up how many prophets there were in the Old Testament. There's not really a good number that we get named. There's 48 male prophets, seven prophetesses, women. But the number of prophets, according to Jewish tradition, numbered in the thousands to hundreds of thousands. Again, that comes out of those schools, the people that could have been false prophets. So there's a lot of different things we got going on here, but we get through the first 5 chapters and we realize Isaiah is a prophet. He's had things. He's told Israel things. He's told the king things, and they've come to be. And yeah, so we got false prophets as well. So let's jump into verse 1 here. Chapter 6, Isaiah chapter 6, verse 1. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord, and that's capital L-O-R-D, Adonai, sitting on a throne high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. So we start in verse 6 here with Isaiah having this vision. He's in the temple. I don't know if he's physically in the temple or just in the vision he's in the temple, but he sees God. And now let's think back farther in the Old Testament. What did God tell Moses would happen if he looked on him? He would die. Right. There's several other people he tells this. As far as actual God, the only person we can maybe say actually saw God was Adam and Eve before they sinned. So now we have this, Isaiah's having this vision of God in the temple. He's got the presence of God sitting in the temple. And let's go ahead and define what Adonai, capital L-O-R-D, is. It's used in place of the Jewish word YHWH, which we've translated to Yahweh. It means sacred. Adonai embodies all of God's lordship and dominion. So Isaiah is recognizing that here's the King of Kings. He's got lordship, he's got dominion over all the earth in this vision. Jump to verse 2 here. Said, above it stood the seraphims. Each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. Anybody want to take a guess at what seraphim means?
Angel eyes right around the throne of God.
Hey, that's not the definition I got, but I don't know. It's probably good. Because that's what they're doing here, certainly. So the word seraphim literally means burning ones. This is the only mention of seraphim is in this chapter of the Bible. They're not mentioned again. But we see here they have 6 wings. One covered their face, one covered their feet. That kind of represents that they're reverencing God. The other 2 wings, they're flying. So put yourself in Isaiah. What is this thing, and what in the world's going on? If you're defining something as the burning ones, I think Isaiah might be kind of freaked out. What do you think? I would be, certainly. You're already in the presence of God, and if you think of what all that entails, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. We'll get into that in a second. So he's in the presence of God. He's got these seraphim flying around, thinking, what in the world's going on here, probably. Yes.
What we call an entourage today.
No, I would think it's the train of his robe. We're going to get a little more definition of what all is going on as far as the presence of God in the temple here in just a little bit. Verse 3, and one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. Again, there's Adonai or Yahweh Tezvaot. The whole earth is full of his glory. So that Yahweh Tezvaot is representing the Lord of armies, God's absolute sovereignty and infinite power and authority over the angels and the universe. So the Lord of hosts, literally everything. He is the Lord of all. Questions or comments so far?
I just thinking, I always looked at it, train built in. I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind, train means like train of thought.
Train of thought?
You think your thought process.
Okay. So yeah, verse 3 here, we get the seraphim are speaking, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. So they're declaring God's glory, that he has lordship over all. The whole earth is full of his glory. Isaiah again is having this vision. He is literally seeing the Lord's glory in this vision. So let's jump to verse 4. And the posts of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. So I kind of looked at this smoke thing, and actually I found something that was kind of interesting. When Israel left Egypt, how did God lead them?
He led them by a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night.
Yeah, a cloud or smoke by day, a pillar of fire by night. So it was kind of interesting that what I read was saying that this filled with smoke is, again, God's presence, kind of similar to how he led Israel out of Egypt. I thought that was kind of cool. Verse 5. Then said I, and this is Isaiah, Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For mine eyes have seen the King of the Lord of hosts. Again, Yahweh Tezvaot, God's lordship, God's sovereignty, ultimate power. So verse 5 there, what do you take that to mean? Let's take a second. What do we think of Isaiah's character? When you think of Isaiah, what do you think of, apart from prophet? Do we consider him kind of a biblical hero of sorts? Anybody?
In a way, he was willing to step up to take on the task in front of him.
Absolutely. And we're seeing that in this chapter here in just a minute. So if I think of Isaiah, I think of a good person, right? Somebody that followed God. But here he is standing in this vision in the presence of God. And all he can say is, "Woe is me." He's pronounced woe on Israel in the chapters, or in Judah in the chapters leading up to this. And he says here, "Woe is me, for I am undone." I'm in the presence of the Lord, and all I can think about is my own sin. Because I am a man of unclean lips. So he gives that woe is me. He tells there should be a separation here between me and God. And then he gives a confession. I speak dirty, is what he's saying. That Israel speaks dirty, I speak dirty. So he gives this confession of a sin in his life. And we see that all throughout the Bible when God comes to Moses. He basically says he's unworthy. When Jesus is speaking to Peter, and Peter realizes for the first time really who Jesus is, he says, "I'm not worthy to be in your presence." So we see Isaiah here, he's realizing that this is it's God. He is the holiest that you can be, and he's confronted with the sin in his life, and he does what all of us should do. Confesses his sin, and he's actually scared that he's going to die because he's seeing the presence of God. Comments or thoughts there?
I can share something. Back years and years ago, I was real young, I read this, and I was talking to a priest, about it. He said their wings he said like their wings are a figure of our imagination. Their wings means they were swift. They was quick to do what they was to do. Anyway, I read this years ago, and I got that idea, man. I thought, well, I got unclean lips, and I need to burn my lips. So I heated a butter knife up over the stove and burnt my lip. They took me up to the hospital, the ER, and hour for hour, just set me up with a jar of Vaseline. Then I went back to see a doctor, Dr. Payne, the ear, throat doctor, whatever, hadn't seen her in a long time. And what I discovered, went back to the doctor, they had someone else's picture in my file that wasn't me. That's what I discovered, went back here years later.
Okay.
I thought I really got a laugh out of that. I really got a good laugh out of it there, again,
So yeah, we're going to get into the burning lips thing here in just a minute. But again, this is a vision of Isaiah. I don't think you're supposed to physically burn your lips here. So
I thought, that's what I thought years ago, I was supposed to do.
Gotcha. Any comments there about verse 5?
I think he absolutely saw himself inside and out. He was in the presence of God. He saw what a vile man he really was. We all repent, but do we really get all this out?
Absolutely. And if I can piggyback off that, Isaiah, again, is somebody that just at first thought I think of, and I think, man, I wish I could be like that person. That guy had no sin in his life. And here we see he's in the presence of God, a prophet, a mouthpiece of God, and he's confronted with his sin. It's something we will battle with all of our lives. But we see here in a second that this completely changes Isaiah's direction. And like John said, he has this experience with God, and he just shifts his whole life. He's ready to. He's kind of sold out here in just a minute. And it's what everybody should do. I mean, when you're in the presence of God, that's what you should realize. I'm a sinner, but Jesus came to this earth. He died on the cross. He took my sin. They didn't have that yet, but they had the hope of a Redeemer in the future. Any other comments there? All right, let's move on to verse 6. Then flew one of the seraphims unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongs from off the altar. And he laid it upon my mouth and said, Lo, this has touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin purged. Anybody think that's kind of just odd compared to how we take... how is our sin purged today? Through what Jesus did at the cross, right. So now we have this seraphim take a coal from off of the altar in the temple and place it on his lips and say, your sin's purged. Kind of odd if you think about it. But think about what fire does whenever you're, I don't know, if you're a blacksmith or something. What does the fire or the heat do?
It makes the metal soft enough to bend its shape.
Okay. It changes it, right. Well, I'll say it gets rid of impurities. It helps to purify things. So that's what I think this is an example of, is the purification. We have a physical, or I guess in a vision, he has an idea of purification. He's purifying his lips. Isaiah says in verse 5 there, I'm a man of unclean lips, so he literally takes a coal and he puts it on what he's saying his sin is. So kind of just a vision there of purification. And another thing I wrote here, Isaiah, again, confesses his flaws. God has already been using him in spite of his flaws, and he continues to do so. I kind of circled this to read here. I'm not sure who this guy is. Albert Barnes says, this experience should have convinced Isaiah that whatever obstacle there existed to communicating the message of God to this people arising from his own consciousness of unworthiness is taken away. You are commissioned to bear that message, and your own conscience of guilt should not be a hindrance. You guys ever messed up, sinned in your life, and been like, man, how's God ever going to use me now? If you haven't, it'll happen. I'd say we probably have that happen a lot. But yeah, so Isaiah saying, hey, I'm a man of unclean lips. Probably if you think like a person does, how can I be the mouthpiece of God if I have unclean lips? That would be the way I would think if I'm confronted with that. Go ahead.
I know this is a vision, but it goes right along with what Luke was preaching the other night. As far as cutting your hand off or taking out your eye, it doesn't mean literally that, that these things, if they bother you, you need to work and focus on getting that area of your life cleaned up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's jump to verse 8 there. It says, also I heard the voice of the Lord, that's Adonai, saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then said I, here am I, send me. So I just kind of took a second and underlined about in the middle of that verse there, the word us. This is an example of God being a Trinity, really before they had any idea of God the Son, or God the Father, or maybe even God the Holy Spirit, really. But he tells Isaiah, who will go for us? God asks this question, who shall I send, and whom will go for us? What do you think that shows Isaiah? What's that show us? God's asking Isaiah a question. He's not giving him a command. You think that kind of shows that God maybe wants our voluntary service? So he's asking a question, and Isaiah's moved to respond. Then said I, here am I, send me. I looked up the Hebrew there. It's really one word, and the word is hineni. Hineni. Hineni means literally, here am I, but it's more of a location. It is that second part of the word, here I am, send me. It's here am I, and I'm willing to do your will, is what hineni represents. A total readiness to act. So Isaiah just learns of his unworthiness in verse 5 there, but in the face of God's glory. He stands in the presence of God and he realizes, I'm an unworthy man. But it is God that makes us worthy, not us. And he realizes that here. And now he takes this to the nation, and God's calling us to do the same, to act. He wants us to be that Hebrew word there, hineni, more than just here am I, but here am I, I'm ready to do your will. Isaiah volunteers to take on the task. Comments? All right, verse 9. And he said, Go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not. And see ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert, and be healed. Take just a second and look at verse 9 and the beginning of verse 10 there, and tell me what you think God's saying to Isaiah. Just take a second there. Absolutely. He's telling Isaiah, I'm sending you out, but by and large, you're not going to be that successful. Anybody ever feel like that? You ever feel like, God, I think I'm doing your will here, but I'm not seeing much out of it. Anybody ever feel that way? All right, let's put a pin in that and save that for later. What's that? So verse 10, I kind of underlined the first couple words there. Make the heart of this people. I took that as the inner man. The inner man's will is to reject the message of God. Let's jump down to verse 11. Then said I, Lord, how long? Going to stop there for a second. God's told him, I'm going to give you this task, and you're not going to see much fruit of this task. And Isaiah's response is exactly what Asher's response is when I tell him to wait for something. How long? And that's us. God tells us to do something. We don't see an immediate result. God, how long is this going to go on? And that's exactly what Isaiah says. How long is this going to go on? I thought of, when I read this, I kind of thought of Noah. Actually, I was playing Mason a video yesterday that kind of goes along with this. It was talking about the years Noah spent building the ark, and it kind of took it as the perspective of his kids. If they weren't really sold out on the idea of building the ark, they may have had friends over if they were young when it started, and maybe they're embarrassed of their dad. How long is this going to go on? But years and years and years, Noah built this ark, and they even got into the ark, and there still wasn't rain when they went into the ark. I think if God told me to do this, I go into the ark, I'm just sitting there waiting on this rain that we've never seen before. Might cross your mind, how long is this going to go on? So let's finish that verse. It says, let's go back to the beginning. Then I said, Lord, how long? And he answered, until the cities be wasted without inhabitant, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate. And the Lord, that's capital L-O-R-D, have removed men far away, and there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. So if you guys can remember when we went through Kings and Chronicles, what ultimately happens to Judah? The nation of Judah. Do they stay around? It's destroyed. The temple's destroyed. Babylon comes in. They take the people as slaves. Exactly what God says there, until the cities be wasted without inhabitant, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate. That happens, but it doesn't happen in Isaiah's lifetime. He only prophesies, he dies when Hezekiah is king. So he prophesies through Hezekiah, and that doesn't happen for another several generations after Hezekiah. Again, God kind of sets this losing battle for Isaiah to fight, and he doesn't even see the fruition of the bad part. He just sees, he goes, he prophesies, he preaches to the people. He wants to know how long this task is going to go on and until this desolation occurs. So I kind of took that as Isaiah's answer of how long. Isaiah never sees the end of this, and we may not either. So I take that as don't stop. Isaiah never sees the waste, the destruction of Judah, so he continues in this task for the rest of his life. Does that make sense? All right, verse 13. But yet in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return, and shall be eaten as a teil tree and as an oak, whose substance is in them. And when they cast their leaves, so the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. So it's God kind of uses a real life example here. Has anybody ever cut down a tree and had a real annoying tree that tries to bloom after you cut it down inside the middle of the stump?
Listen, there was a red maple tree Dad planted in the yard, nice little boy. That thing was dying. I cut it back almost clear to the ground, and boy, that thing came out of that and sprouted and grew to be a great big tree. I must have done something right there. Dad thought I killed it right there. He thought I cut it down too short. I just didn't run. I just felt like that was the thing to do, and I done it. And that tree, it got this big way up in the air.
Yeah, that's exactly the example God's given Isaiah here. Is you cut down a tree, if the tree's not completely dead and the roots in the center of it might sprout up again. So God's saying, that the land's going to be desolate, the people are going to be taken away, but I'm going to bring this tenth and it shall return. And that's exactly what happens. As Babylon, they come in, they take Judah out, and they take them away. They live in Babylon. Babylon gets conquered by the Persians. And the Persian king, who is it, Darius? I believe it's Darius, sends a group of this remnant of Judah back to Jerusalem, and they begin building again. And that's exactly what God's saying here. Isaiah never, I want to stress this again, Isaiah never sees any of this come to pass. But whenever they come back to Jerusalem, they find Isaiah's writings. Isaiah's writings endures past the time when he prophesied to Judah. And in that, his word touches people beyond his life. So he never sees, we'll say this again, he never sees the fruit of his labor really, but it still comes to pass. Does that make sense?